Here we go. It is live with Laura and wow, right? I mean, it's been quite a journey, Laura. It's such a cool thing to be sitting here with you live on LinkedIn and YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. I share with people all the time that when I started a lot of this back in 2019 and started having conversations with people, I do think that you probably top the list of the most conversation that I've had. So it's exciting to be able to be with you as you're doing all kinds of great things in dentistry and kick this new live series off. How you doing?
I'm good. I think about that, John. You were the launch for putting me everywhere in the beginning, and now here we are again, still doing it differently, but still doing it. So I appreciate you, and I'm so glad that we're starting this series.
Well, I'm excited about this. You speak all over the country. I know it's something that you're very passionate about. Obviously, the founder of Front Office Rocks, and we'll get into that. But as you were kind of piecing together the ideas for this live series, I know we were kind of talking about you're hearing conversations from dental practices and the audiences that you talk to all the time. And so we thought, why not bring that to social media? Why not bring that to your audiences? You've done such a great job of building your social media channels, and like a lot of social media channels, you want to make sure that you're connecting with them. So that's what we're here to do. All kinds of fun things. We're going to do these once a month. Everybody, Laura's going to talk a little bit about like what happened in the last month, all the different meetings that she's gone to, and what she spoke on. She's also doing a lot of exciting things with Front Office Rocks and Uptime Health, as she will share kind of towards the end of this episode. But Laura, yeah, I mean, when you think about kind of where you are right now in your career, like just the passion to be out there speaking to people, what comes to mind?
It is actually my favorite thing. I just went off. We were just talking about this. I just got off of like a 3 month journey of speaking. I've been all over. Actually, you said all over the country. I actually been considered all over the world. I guess I spoke in Jamaica like 2 months ago. So I had the opportunity to speak in Jamaica and then all over the country, and it's my favorite thing because with Front Office Rocks, I film videos and I do things like this, but I don't get to meet the people. I don't get to hear the challenges they have in their offices. And so it's so exciting to be able to like, all right, well, this is what people are talking about right now on the street, in the conference rooms, right? And be able to bring it to everybody here that maybe couldn't see me speak, also are having those challenges, and just generate new ideas for offices to use in the practice. So I'm super excited to be doing this with you.
All right, so on social media, it can be used so many different ways, right? Many times we see a picture of a speaker in front of a crowd. We see people taking pictures of like what events they were at and so on and so forth. But I think this element, what the goal of this is to bring to your audience what you are seeing. Like, what are you talking about specifically? Like, what are the attendees looking for? What are their pain points? What are some of their challenges? And then have you talk a little bit about that. So, the first meeting that we were going to start with was you were up in the beautiful Pacific Northwest at the
Yes.
PNDC conference. So, any insights from your time up there in that beautiful part of the country?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite. That's my second time speaking there. So I spoke there early May, and it's my second time speaking for that conference. It's a great conference, so many great speakers there, and I spoke on time management and productive scheduling. And really, one thing that I find, no matter where I am in the country, is there's just not enough time in the day. No matter where your practice is, no matter what position you're in, there's just not enough time in the day. And we talked a lot about that when I was there, about the fact that there's two kind of aspects that you really need to focus on in the practice when it comes to time management. One is your schedule, because the schedule runs us. I mean, we all can agree to that, right? Like, if a schedule that runs well, we have a happy team. A schedule that doesn't run on time and doesn't run well, we've got a stressed out team. So it's the running the schedule effectively, which a lot of people have been taught how to schedule, but kind of just by hearsay, what somebody taught them in their practice, the last person that did the schedule, but they don't really understand how to build a productive schedule. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is personal time management. None of us really went to school to be executives or leaders or business, into business, school. And got our degrees in business. So time management isn't something that everybody just walks in the office having. And so, especially, we know our doctors tend to sometimes have issues with that. And so learning how to manage your own time and manage your practice schedule is super important. So there's two kind of aspects of fixing your practice so that you run on time. So we really talked about that. I actually wanted to mention while we're talking about it, because this is my first time having like a VIP in the audience the entire day. I had a beautiful little baby in the audience, a mom who had her child, actually had a couple babies in there, but this one stayed front row and center the whole time. Mom fed the baby sat on the floor and played, the baby took naps. And by the end, we were role playing, how to go through our days and do better about time. And I got an opportunity to hold the baby and speak with the baby. Actually, there you go. So this baby, that was the most photographed I've ever been when I was speaking because of that baby. And it was very distracting at the end. I had about 15 minutes left, and he was cooing and cawing. He never cried. It was so amazing. So if this little boy becomes a future speaker, I just want to say that I might be part of his journey. Who knows? It's in his subconscious. He was completely comfortable, but it was amazing to spend the day with the teams and really get to interact like that, and then eventually get to hold their baby. So it was a great day.
You know what I've always loved about just Front Office Rocks and the library of content, and you've spoke about it for many, many years, is when you talk about dental teams being busy. I think that's the value of it, right? Is being able to watch a lot of those topics that were recorded, like when they're applicable in the practice. But then
Yeah.
you also think about people coming out in person to listen to you or what have you, seeing, I mean, it's exciting, I think, Laura, because it shows that people are still doing what they need to do to learn, right? Despite whatever challenges they have, like
Mm-hmm.
a family. I mean, I think that's super encouraging when I see that. And yeah, talk a little bit about that. I mean, talk about what the energy has been like, even just in the last, 30 to 60 days when you're out there speaking in front of these groups
Yeah.
in person, and what you love so much about that.
Yeah, I personally love it when I get to go speak, because when the room is full of team members, that means the team members are investing in themselves and they understand that the doctor's investing in them. So many times our doctors and our hygienists and assistants, of course, will go to training because of clinical and CE requirements. But when the team actually gets to go, the one thing I always make sure I tell the team members is make sure you thank your doctor. There are so many dentists who don't invest in their team members. And that's a huge pat on the back. I mean, you want to talk about employee retention, invest in your team members. But then the other thing is also that the team members honor that and realize that they're investing in themselves. I mean, when I talk about time management, that's not a clinical thing. That's not an insurance thing. That's not a coding thing. That's literally trying to get more time back in your day. And it's a personal skill to learn and to get better at. So it's super exciting. And I'm seeing the turnouts are great. I mean, the second conference we're going to talk about is California Dental Association. I mean, they've pivoted completely, and I was part of a team day. So it's so fun to see not only the team members excited about it, but also that the doctors, and if the doctors are in the room with the team members, that's like a double bonus. I love that. I love that.
I feel like, as you know, Laura, there was years where the conversations were around talking to the doctors, and doctors would get excited about a topic or what have you and go back to their office. Then they would have to do double work and then share that
Yep.
same thing with their team and get them excited. It really is encouraging to see, like you mentioned, not only some of these bigger meetings like the California Dental Association are creating, like you said, just these team days. I feel like that's going to accelerate a lot of the great learning that's going on out there, to just make it that much quicker for the teams to come on board when they can do that. So I think that's a great segue to what you did while you were in Anaheim at, one of the
Yeah.
largest dental meetings in the country. I know it's always probably a privilege to be there, right up the road from you in San Diego, but talk a little bit about that team summit. And it was a big group.
Yeah, actually, and it's funny because for those that aren't speakers, just so that people kind of understand, there's sort of like a level of conferences. There's a level of groups. It's great to be with practices and in the trenches with them, but it's also great to be at the big meetings. So that was actually my first time speaking at CDA. I've been to CDA a lot, but it was quite the honor to be there. And what CDA did and what they're doing is, if you guys don't know, they've stopped doing CDA North. They're not going to have the scientific meeting. And instead, they surveyed their dentist in Northern California, maybe all of California, I don't know. But what they heard was, we want more stuff for teams. We want more stuff for our teams. And they pivoted, which was amazing. They had their first team day. I think we ended up with a few hundred there. I don't remember exactly the final number, but we started as a team. We got everybody kind of kicked off with the right attitude, the doctors were there. A couple of groups wore T-shirts and stuff. Then we broke out into individual sessions, and they brought in a couple amazing speakers, as well as the team from CDA. And we co-spoke throughout the day on, my group was on case acceptance and financial arrangements. And then we brought everybody back together, and they sat for an hour, 45 minutes, and worked on their action plans as a team. Because so many times I think we go to these seminars and we're like, this is amazing, this is great. But then we go home and nothing happens and nothing changes. So if you really want to get good ROI on investing in your team, doing something like that, where we work as a team and we make a list and we hold people accountable. We say, okay, when we go back to the practice, what kind of things are we going to work on and what are we going to change? So I'm speaking in September for the CDA again. So if anybody's interested, I'm trying to look up real quick when it is. This is live and in person here. We are at October, like the beginning of October, the 11th and 12th, October 10th through the 12th. I'm at CDA North, or in Northern California, and we're doing the team again. So if you're interested in California, you should definitely look that up.
Can you talk a little bit about some of their questions? I mean, I feel like same pain points, right? Same challenges. You talk about this all the time. But do you hear things different when you're in different parts of the country? Obviously, these first two you're talking about, you're up in the Pacific Northwest, and then of course in Southern California, and that we're going to get moved to the Midwest here with St. Louis coming up next. Yeah, we're moving across. But anything different that you see that's regionally based when you get out there and talk to dental teams?
Well, I would say California. Welcome to California. Our minimum wage and the cost of hiring is significantly higher. California also has its own fun idiosyncrasies with laws. So I was very thankful that CDA was actively part of the discussion, because anytime as the speaker you give advice or suggestions, you want to make sure that you are clear of, check your state laws, check with your lawyers, check with your HR, your consultants in that area. So California hiring is, everywhere hiring is tough, but in California, it is tough. I would even go towards a little tougher, just because of the cost. In here in San Diego, minimum wage at fast food now is $22 an hour. So somebody can go get a job $22 an hour. I'm in dental, but I also have a small business in San Diego, and it's hard to compete. So it's definitely a real consideration in California. I do believe that there's, it's high everywhere for everyone. I will say though, one of my things when it comes to hiring, and I talk about this whenever I get a possible chance to talk about hiring, is that hiring is tough, but we have to realize that a lot of it has to do with our culture. You have to build a culture that people want to come work at. When the hiring is tough, when there's not a lot of people looking on the job market, then you have to make sure that you have a culture, even more so, more important, that attracts people to come want to work for you. We don't want to just hire people who are coming for more money and then they're going to quit the next time they get a better job, or a job that's going to pay them more. We want people who are committed to our mission, our purpose, and where we're going, which means we have to build a culture that's amazing. And your culture, every office has a culture, whether you mean it or not, it has a culture. And the idea is to build a culture that rocks, because you can then hire an average person and elevate them, right? And so we don't have to go hire somebody with all this dental experience and somebody with all of this amazing experience and great attitude. We can hire someone who's average. I mean, we don't want to hire a, bump on a log, but we want to hire somebody good and elevate them to our culture. But on the flip side, if you've ever hired somebody that's amazing, and then you're like 6 months later, you're like, what happened? Most of the time, it's because your amazing person got squashed, right? Like your culture pushed them down. And the analogy I use when I speak is if you look at like Southwest Airlines, Southwest has an amazing culture. And the idea is, when you get on there, they're fun and they're interactive with the customers. And not everybody's great at Southwest, but overall, there is a culture and the team kind of holds everybody to that culture, right? To that level. But on the flip side, have you ever gone in to get a new driver's license at the DMV or wherever your state's called? Those people were excited the first day they started also, right? They were excited, like, yes, I got a great job with the government. And then in the first week, they got told, listen, you don't smile, you don't clock in early, you don't go an extra mile, right? Like the culture really trumps the employees. And so just thinking about that, making sure that you don't have this excuse that hiring's hard, there's nobody good out there, because there are good people, right? But are they going to leave where they're at, or are they going to want to take on another part-time job working somewhere else that doesn't have an amazing culture? So really make sure that you're looking within your four walls at that, when it's, especially when a time like now, when it is hard to hire.
Yeah, I hear you talk about that a lot, and it's been a constant message of yours, right? To when
Mhm.
you're in a hiring challenge, maybe use that as an opportunity to turn the mirror around, look at yourself, look at the
Yep.
practice, look at the systems, look at the leadership, look at the culture. Not
Yep.
always the thing to do. And as you know, Laura, when times are really, really good and or the supply and demand is upside down in regards to a lot of people out there, you don't have to do that, right?
Yep.
But the pendulum has swung the other way, and so
Yep.
love that insight, and it looks like a lot of practices are having to do that, which ultimately in the long run I would imagine is a good thing. So
I think there's that. And then the other thing that I tell everybody is be open to outsourcing. Outsourcing is, when I started 20 plus years ago, there wasn't much available when it comes to outsourcing, except for maybe, somebody answering your phone and taking a message. But now there are amazing companies out there that can take a lot of the tasks off your day, your front team operations, like the answering phones, scheduling, insurance. There's a lot of outsourcing and there's a lot of technology available, so that your team, the way we've always done it might not be the way we need to do it going forward. So make sure you're looking at other resources, which what is going to lead me to, like, the CDA showroom floor was amazing for that. Like I told everybody in our team event, walk the floor, talk to the companies, find out what they offer. Even if it's a company you work with, these companies are always adapting and growing and trying to make our lives easier. So go have conversations with the sponsors. Not only do they help make sure that these conferences happen, but they also have new, better ways to help us do our job. And so definitely be open to it. In times like this, you've got to learn how to adapt. And many times that just means we're going to end up being more efficient on the back end. But you've got to be willing to look at options and to be open to change.
yeah, no question. When I talk to a lot of companies nowadays, Laura, I get really excited because I feel like that gap between the communication between the dental practice and the companies is getting smaller, in that they're more open, I think, than ever to listen to feedback in regards to their product, their service, their technology. What are some of the pain points? Like, what can a company do in order to make those accommodations to make the product or service even more relevant in their
Right.
practice? So, but like you mentioned, if the team members are not spending the time meeting those companies, seeing what's out there, having those conversations, then it can be very challenging to want those things, which I think is
Yep.
great. So.
Which leads me to there's one, I'm not clinical at all. So just so you guys know, I don't walk around and look at hand pieces. I don't look at, I actually laugh for those who are watching this. There's always a line for like Sonicare, Crest, Oral-B, like the hygienists line up for that, right? So I don't stay in line, even though that would be fun stuff. I don't look at the clinical stuff. I look at the software. But I was in line at breakfast one morning and someone's like, oh, are you Laura from Front Office Rocks? Oh my gosh, I've followed you forever. I love you. And she's an office manager who's husband is a dentist. And I said, well, what are you doing here? Are you just here for training? And she said, no, we have a new product. So I went to her booth, and I have this new product that I got last week. I freaking love. It's called Slate, just so you guys know. And again, I'm not clinical, so I just want to tell you about it because I don't, there might be other companies out there that do this. That's awesome. But it's Sonic Flosser. So it's got the floss head on it. And when you turn it on, you can hear it. And you actually, it has Sonic that when you're flossing, I'm not even going to do it here. It's mine, by the way. But it's got these rubber tips. So not only is there sonic waves, I guess, I'm not clinical, but I get the whole like Sonicare will be all of the great technology we have. But I've never seen a flosser that has this. And then there's rubber tips on either side. So when you're flossing, you bring the rubber tips in between the teeth, and it is amazing. I just got this like a week ago. It's been on the road with me on my last trip, and my flossing, I can't wait to go get my checkup because I think it's going to be amazing. And then on top of that, they have a tongue scraper here. So this is amazing new thing that I found on the road. It's battery operated right now, but they say they're going to soon have it so that you can charge it. But anyway, new, latest, greatest. I don't know. Check it out, everybody.
It's interesting how you learned about that. You said you were standing in line. You just struck up a
Yeah.
conversation. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It happens
Yeah.
like that sometimes, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then I went to the booth, and then there was like, I mean, all the hygienists were there. They were all excited about it. I'm like, well, if they're all excited about it, I should be excited about it. I, trust my hygiene team. So anyway,
Awesome.
yep,
All right. So you are out west, coming back a little bit to the Midwest. So then you
yep.
got an opportunity to head to St. Louis and the St. Louis connection, I believe. And all I remember seeing about you being there was something about this chocolate fountain, which I'm sure you'll get
Yeah.
into of that. Just some really cool things that obviously they were doing for those in attendance. But what was that meeting all about? What did you present, and what was some of the feedback?
Yeah, so that was the St. Louis Dental Connection, which is a DPLN of ADOM. So that's a lot of letters at once. But what that is ADOM is the American Association of Dental Office Management. If you don't know them and you have someone in management, then you should definitely look. If you have somebody, you should be involved in ADOM for your management office manager or practice manager. And then there's local study clubs, and this was a study club in St. Louis. And so they brought me in. It's a great study club. They did this for all of the members and the area doctors and teams. And so I think we had over 130 in the room, something like that. And it was about difficult discussions, which is a great team thing to do or talk about because we have plenty of difficult discussions in our dental offices, or believe that, I mean, there are a lot of discussions that we have, such as talking to our patients about the money, such as talking to each other about the drama, such as talking to our doctors about things that, think problems in the office. So it was great. And there was so many doctors who were just surprised at how much their team didn't talk to them about things that they could suggest to improve or areas that they could be more of a leader. So it was and they did have mimosas and a chocolate bar. So, I mean, everybody was happy talking to the vendors and walking around having their mimosa and their, chocolate dipped strawberries.
I love it. So I think what's very fascinating, everybody, when you talk about Laura out there presenting is, especially with this next event that you went to, it's kind of all over the place, right, Laura? I mean, obviously the bigger meetings like CDA and Pacific, Northwest, some of these smaller groups who would have you, but then also you had an opportunity to speak with Indian Health in the Oklahoma City area. And again, I'm sure maybe some different challenges, but common themes, I would imagine, with a lot of the dental teams there. So talk a little bit about that meeting and what were some of the things that were discussed?
That actually was very interesting to me. It was my first time speaking for IHS, so it's Indian Health Services. This organization, the one I spoke for, was Oklahoma and maybe Nebraska. But I guess there's IHS all over the country. She was saying one of the biggest ones, the lady who brought me in, is in California. I had no idea. And so they offer free dental care for Native Americans, First Americans, and I learned a lot because I've never spoke to this organization before. So they offer free dental care, medical care. They have clinics all over the state, and they offer once a year few days, maybe it was 3 days of CE, and they brought in amazing speakers. Carrie Weber spoke, Tia Hunter spoke, I spoke. There's probably other great speakers there. Those are the ones that I know. It was to help their clinicians not only get the CE they need or their teams, but also improve their practices. Now, their biggest issue was different than every other conference I was at up to that point. However, it's very similar to probably what a lot of practices actually have. Their issue is because it's free dental care, they have an issue with cancellations and no-shows. Now, I know everybody who listen to this is probably like, well, we have a problem with cancellations and no-shows. Well, every dental office does. I mean, we have to remember what we do. We put drills and needles in their mouths, and people are going to pay us money for something nobody's ever going to see. Nobody really wants that. So we're always going to have issues with cancellation and no-shows, but they have an elevated amount of issues with it because there's no exchange for the dental care. There's no put a deposit down. There's no financing. There's no talking about money. There's no really making sure that the person is on board to get the dentistry done. Whereas in private practice or in most of our other scenarios, when we start talking about money, that's when you really find out where the patient has the barriers and if they're on board to do the dentistry and if they're going to show up. So they don't have the money conversations with the patients, and therefore there's not a value necessarily for the patients. So that my topic actually wasn't on that. My topic was on time management, but most of their attention was on they also don't have enough time in the day. I mean, one clinic I talked to, they said they have an hour in the morning for emergency walk-ins, and it can be anywhere from 5 people to 20 people just walking in the 1 hour in the morning that you got to figure out if you're going to see them that day or not. So time is a major issue for them. And the fact that they have, it's like, is it Swiss cheese? They have holes in their schedule all the time because of cancellations and no-shows. So we sort of pivoted on our discussion when I was there a little bit to talk more about, well, what could they do to impact cancellations and no-shows? And there was a couple of things that I talked on a little bit more in depth then on the idea of, first of all, making sure that we're all saying the same thing in the practice. You know, a confused mind isn't going to buy anything. So if your team isn't saying the exact same thing to the patient throughout the time in the practice, the patient's not going to understand what we're talking about. So an example of that is, like in my practice, when we learned this, we were calling periotherapy, somebody else was calling it deep cleaning, somebody else was calling it a perio, somebody else was calling it scaling and root planing. And what happened was the patient was hearing different things along the way. They didn't know what they were coming in for, and there's no buy-in if they're confused. The second thing is really making sure that they're holding their system, or following their systems well, like making sure that they're calling the patients to confirm them, making sure when they arrive they're verifying, good job, you made it, now let's hand you off, and make sure we take care of them all the way through the process. Handoffs are key for them. Morning huddles are key. Confirmation calls are key. Like anything that they can do in their systems to help the patients show up. And then really it is about having for them even more heart-to-heart conversations with these patients about the need for this dentistry that they need to get done. And it's not a clinical discussion. It doesn't mean show them the x-rays and talk about, the problems that they have. For me, it was more of tell them stories of other patients that didn't get this done and what happened. Always have a story in your back pocket. Always have an image you can show them, because as people, if you're not a dental person, you don't understand that what it means that this could abscess. You don't understand that what it means that this could be a root canal or turn into a root canal. But if we explain in a story that there's a patient who was on vacation and their tooth ended up abscessing and they ended up in the hospital, or they woke up in the middle of the Saturday in pain and there was no clinic to get into. And so if we can explain to our patients in a story of other people who've had a similar challenge, dental need, and what happened to them, we can get more buy-in. And so we just kind of broke it down to like, what are the things they could impact? Because many times we complain about things that are outside of our four walls, like it's because they're not paying, it's because of there's no value. But what can you impact within your four walls? There are some things they can do within their four walls, communication and systems, that could help to improve the no show and cancellation rate. So we really kind of dove into that. Though I wasn't expecting it, I pulled it out of my back pocket because that's where their attention was.
Yeah, again, I think such a great overview, right, of the events that you go to, the audiences that you speak to, a lot of common issues, but some different issues, right, based on where you are. And I think that's why I was excited about you wanting to put this together, is because I think, you can share with your social media audience like what you're seeing out there, and of course anybody can take any tip or insight, and apply it to their practice. Which reminds me, I wanted to mention this, like as we do these, whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn, would love to have you, post a question for Laura, right? So like if you have any questions, if there's anything top of mind, like you're watching this at a later time when it's not live, put that in the comments and we'll make sure that the team gets that. And then on the next, either Laura can respond back, before the next live, or maybe even something that she can talk about on the next live in regards to particular topics, so we can make this really relevant to what you're dealing with on a daily basis in your practice. Any thoughts on that, Laura? Just as kind of like what that's been like for
Yeah.
you over the years of like real questions coming in and you being able to answer those.
Yeah, 100%. So that is what I love the most, is when we have interaction, to be able to address the questions. I love the opportunity to, when I started this whole idea, I didn't want to be a consultant, quote unquote. There's amazing consultants already out there, but I wanted to be there for the team members. So this is your opportunity to ask me questions. And again, I may not know the answer, but I'll give you my best answer, or I'll help you find a solution to it. So, and then also I would like to mention too that, I love speaking. I love coming in. I'm a trainer and a speaker. So if there's opportunities to come to one of your meetings or be involved somehow, please reach out, because this is how I learn. This is how I get to meet your team, and this is how we can grow together in our industry.
And if you are watching by chance Hinman Dental, it is one of Laura's goals to be able to speak at the Hinman. And so like it's
That's
going to happen
good.
sometime in her speaking career. And so we're gonna plug it every
I,
time, Laura. We're gonna plug it.
everybody who loves me, if you love me and you see I speak at Hinman, that might be my retirement party. I'm just kidding. But yes, it has been. It is definitely on the list of hopefully
Love it.
one day. Yes.
All right. So as we wrap here, a lot of buzz around the news going around with Front Office Rocks and Uptime Health. And for those of you that are, following all the social media channels, you may have seen like little subtle updates to the logo and all that stuff or whatever. So Laura is here. We thought this would be a great opportunity to have you speak a little bit about that. Of course, as we get into next month, I know with you not traveling as much over the next month or what have you, you're going to be spending a lot more time. You've got some exciting Front Office Rocks things you're working on. Obviously, some things with Uptime Health and all of that. But yeah, what a great opportunity. I think maybe have you share just a little, maybe a 30,000 foot view of this new opportunity, what you're going to be doing with it. And I think more importantly, what you're most excited about when you look at Uptime Health and Uptime Services and all that good stuff.
Yeah, for those that may not know Uptime Health or Uptime Services, don't worry, neither did I before like 90 days ago. So they're newer to our industry, but an amazing company. And I'm super excited to be part of Uptime. Front Office Rocks needed a home that it was going to live for when I do my retirement one day. And Uptime Health is an amazing home for Front Office Rocks. And so Uptime Health, just to give you a high level overview, and again, I'm newer to Uptime Health or with Uptime Health, so I'm learning it currently, and that's what I'm hoping to bring over the next two month or two for you guys. But Uptime Health is the idea is to have your practice have uptime and not downtime. And what they do is they monitor the physical equipment in the practice. They have an awesome dashboard, and they can monitor everything in your practice to make sure that it's running. If it's time to do maintenance, to make sure to assign to team members the maintenance that need to be done on it, to if there's errors, to be able to deliver you how to, or things that need to be repaired, if you can repair it, or if you need to get help repairing it. And they connect with your repair companies to make sure it's, when it's time to get a repair on something, to get the ticket in so that you can get your equipment repaired. Because the idea is they want uptime, not downtime. And so Front Office Rocks is a great partner with Uptime, because we now also bring the content, the training to the team members. I love the accountability part of it, that we can assign team members to do maintenance on equipment, to make sure it got done, as well as watch a video. And now we have lots of plans for lots of new things that we're working on. So that's what I'll be bringing in the next couple months. Now that I have a month of not traveling or speaking, I'm going to dig deep into where we can partner together better to serve our customers and Uptime Health and future new customers that will come our way because of this collaboration.
Yeah, a couple of exciting things there. After spending time myself, selling dental handpieces when I first started in dentistry. I was there firsthand when a practice was down a handpiece or two, had to cancel a patient for whatever reason. So, I mean, it goes like with what you said, it's such an important part of the practice. And one of those things is, Laura, that it can, I don't want to say get taken for granted, right? But like time goes by, right? Like you're seeing patients every day, what have you. And it's like anything else. It's kind of one of those behind the scene things that maybe you didn't organize all your equipment. Maybe you don't, and then something goes down. Of course, you weren't planning for it. And I know that's just one little piece of what Uptime is bringing to the dental industry, which is really exciting. And then when you talk about training, it is 2024. I know if I have to learn something about a piece of equipment or I don't know or understand it, I go to YouTube. And so videos are here. They're here to stay. And I know that was one of the things that the Uptime team was really excited about in regards to Front Office Rocks and you and all that, just the office training platform that's been created with Front Office Rocks. And like you said, what that means to the dental teams when you bring in the maintenance, when you bring in the compliance, a lot of exciting things I know that you guys are going to be working on. So
yeah, and then that's the one other thing too that you brought up, and I forgot to mention at the end. The other great thing that I think is super smart as an office manager when it comes to uptime is when there is maintenance to be done on equipment. So maybe you do monitor your equipment and you have one practice and that's great, and you can do the maintenance on it. But many times when it breaks and you're like, is it time to fix it or replace it? And they will actually do an analysis for you on all the equipment as it needs repair to say, does it make sense to fix this, or does it make sense to actually replace it? So there's so many smart things when it comes to it. And I don't know of any other company who's really focused on the hard equipment. We're focused on the training, the soft skills, the other things, the OSHA, the HIPAA, the insurance, but what about the actual things that operate in the practice? So I have a lot more stuff I've got to learn, but I definitely am excited to bring it to everybody here. Oh, and you asked me my position in this. I've actually been given the best title I think I've had. For first I was office manager, then I was founder of Front Office Rocks, but my new title with Uptime is education evangelist and creator, but education evangelist. I flippin' love that title. That describes what I've been doing for 10 years and what I plan to do for the next 10 years. So now when I get introduced, hopefully people will say, oh, this is Laura. She's an education evangelist. That just sounds like, I'm on a mountain just talking about the importance of training your team.
I love that. All right. So as we wrap this first episode, love to have you share. I know, like you mentioned, next couple months, you're going to be spending a lot of time on what you mentioned, Front Office Rocks and Uptime and a little downtime, hopefully there and with where you're at in beautiful San Diego. But as you look towards the rest of the year, certainly for anybody watching, would love to obviously see you, would love to maybe just kind of like share with everybody where you're headed kind of in the back half of the year. And then that way, people can come see you and can come listen and ask questions and all that good stuff.
I'm doing this live and in person because I got to pull my calendar up.
Put her
So
on the spot.
yeah, exactly. I happen to be coming to the ADHA. I'm not speaking, but I'll be in New Orleans in ADHA in July. August is a quiet month. Then it gets busy. So I'm at ADOM. Again, if you have anybody in leadership in your company or doctors to come to ADOM, that's an amazing conference. Potentially going to Dental Festival. I am speaking for a periodontal practice in Michigan and one in Canada. Then CDA, which we talked about, and then ADA SmileCon. So I've got pretty much September and October on the road. So if you're at any of those areas, definitely look it up and get tickets. I'd love to meet you and your team.
Awesome. Final thoughts, Laura. When you look at where dentistry is right now, especially with you actually being out there with the teams on the street, right? What are you most excited about just with what you're hearing and what you're seeing as we look forward to the next couple of years?
Last year I was kind of hopeful that we were through the hard stuff, and last year seemed to be still hard for a lot of people, but 2024 feels like it is the year that we're going to start to get a little bit of like, okay, things are getting better again. But I say that hesitantly because there's a lot of offices that I talk to, and I didn't talk about it yet in here, but that are like laying back on this idea that their schedules are so full and life is so good and they're so, but it's a pendulum swing. So just as much as we can finally take a deep breath, all of us together and go, okay, we think we got through this hard part. That doesn't mean put aside the systems, put aside the things we need to do, put aside the things that we need to work on, because this is the time to lean in more. This is the time to invest in the team. This is the time to bring them to the conferences or do the training, because where the schedule's full right now, give it 6 months, 9 months, and you guys are going to be wondering where the patients are if we're not running our systems now. So take a deep breath, enjoy the summer, enjoy the moment, but that doesn't mean not, we're going into the fall, and we all know in the fall, that's when everybody forgets that they have dental insurance, and we're trying to squeeze everybody in. So just enjoy the summer and get ready for the fall.
Yeah, it's a great message. I think, like we've all seen, the industry, like all industries, went through COVID and really had to kind of claw out, learn a lot about, what they could do better in their practice amongst all kinds of other things that they had never faced ever. And then, like you said, Laura, they come out, they get on the other side of it. You start to see some progress, but the challenges are still there, right? They're not going to go away. They'll just be different ones. And so love the advice of, like you mentioned, lean in. There really are so many resources out there now. When I think about think about, Laura, where dentistry is now and where it was when you started, and what you did not have and what practices have now. So I think that's encouraging, right? Is to do that. And I know you're such a great example of that. And for anybody that's watching this, like we mentioned, this is on all the social media channels. So, Laura's built a really great, subscriber audience on YouTube, and on a daily basis, you're going to continue to see little tips and insights from Laura, including her Dear Laura show, where she's actually, answering questions from the audience with her. But on all the social media channels, we'd love to have you follow them, share them with, your colleagues and things like that. So any final thoughts?
No, I think let's enjoy it. It's beginning of summer. We're off and running, so make sure that you're focusing on your team and yourself and working on your practice. And we are here to support you at Front Office Rock. So it's been fun, John. Thanks for let me tell everybody in the world where I've been the last month.
I love it. All right, everybody, have an awesome week, and we'll see you live with Laura next month. Thanks, Laura.
Bye, guys. Thank you.